Welcome and thank you for joining us for the 2015 presidential candidate debate. My name is Peter Sherwood and joining me is Zora Stevenson as well as Corey Tuitt. Now we are members of the 2015 student projects, and this event is also sponsored by the 2015 student projects. Now today joining us, we'll hear from our candidates, Sarah Glover and Mira Lowe, and the candidates today will be discussing and addressing hot button issues about NABJ and answering some questions from our audience member. Now you too can join in on the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag NABJ debate. Now let's get started with these questions and these issues that the organization is facing now. But before we talk about that, Zora, can you tell me who are the candidates and what can we expect from them?
Well, we have two very, very qualified candidates. First one, Sarah Glover. She is the social media editor for the NBC-owned and operated stations. And then we have Mira Lowe, who is the senior features editor for CNN. So again, you know, they have leadership positions right now in their careers, and both of them very qualified for this presidential position.
So like I mentioned, we're a part of the student projects, and Corey, you were working on a story for the Monitor. Can you tell me what are some of these hot button issues that the organization is facing right now?
Well, one of the main issues NABJ is facing is something they've struggled with for some years, and it has to do with their finances. Today at a board meeting, Greg Morrison, the interim treasurer, said that NABJ would either have to double its membership numbers or increase their membership dues. And another issue that's affecting the entire journalism community is obviously this digital shift. So NABJ is going to have to try to find some way to adapt and make more changes to stay relevant.
So among all of those issues, we have the financial issue as well as the digital shift in media. But Zora, can you go ahead and explain to me what are the candidates' platform and what do they hope to invest as they are president?
Yeah, well, Sarah Glover, she has three main things that she wants to address if elected. The first thing is really addressing the financial situation that you talked about, getting NABJ back to where it needs to be. The second one is that she wants to reshape the Media Institute. And then lastly, she really wants to engage the advocacy efforts of the organization. And she's really focusing on getting the word out there that she has leadership experience. And that's really one of the biggest things that she's pushing. She's had leadership experience on the national level and on the local level with her chapter. We move on to Mira Lowe, who has three things that she wants to focus on. She wants to educate, she wants to engage, and then she wants to elevate the organization. There was a very interesting story on her website. It talked about a first-time convention attendee who said she didn't have a great experience at the convention. She called home to her mother, and she said, I just don't understand. There's kind of a lot of back and forth between the board of directors and some of the older members. And she said, I don't know if I want to be a part of this organization. And so Mira really wants to address that and wants to make everyone feel like this is an organization that they need to be a part of. So a very interesting story that I thought I would share.
Now, what are some of the issues that the current leaders of NABJ want to see change in?
Well, I actually spoke with the current president, Bob Butler, and he said he hopes that whoever gets elected as the next NABJ president will really make an effort to encourage more young journalists to take on leadership positions. And that is something that the student representative, Corey Atkinson, also agreed with.
Well, thank you for joining us for the 2015 presidential debate. Remember that you too can submit your questions online on Twitter using the hashtag NABJ debate. And remember, the last day to vote is August 7th. You can do that online on nabj.org as well as in person at the convention. Now soon you'll hear from our moderators. Their names are Anthony Wilson and Shannon Sims, and our candidates will join us. Stay with us.
Good evening. I'm Shannon Sims from the NBC affiliate WTMJ4 in Milwaukee.
I'm Anthony Wilson with ABC 11 in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. Good evening.
And so before we start this debate, both candidates had a chance to do a coin toss to decide who would give the opening statement. And Myra will be the first to give the opening statement, followed by Sarah.
That's 1.5 minutes, and we will be maintaining the time, so please adhere to the restrictions. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Myra Lowe, and I am the Senior Editor for Features at CNN Digital. I am a longtime NABJ member, 28 years, and I love NABJ, and I think NABJ can do so much better. As a longtime member and a leader and manager in the business, my experience extends to multiple platforms. I've worked in newspapers, magazines, the black press, academia, and digital. And I think that collective experience makes me uniquely qualified to lead the association now. As your next NABJ president, NABJ will do 3 things. It will elevate, it will educate, and it will engage. When I talk about elevation, that means raising the profile of our members, of the work that they do, and our association. When it comes to education, that means increasing the training to our members for the jobs of today and tomorrow. As a hiring manager, I'm well aware of the skills that are needed to do that. And when we talk about engaging, that means really building alliances across multiple platforms and organizations. That includes tech companies, universities, other nonprofits, and also restoring some of the relationships that have gone by the wayside. As your next NABJ president, I'll be honored to have your vote, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Glover. I want to first thank the NABJ Student Projects for holding this debate. This is an awesome first for NABJ Student Projects. Myself, I'd like to tell you a little about me. I'm a former NABJ baby, or an NABJ baby for life. I was a part of the Student Projects in 1995 in Philadelphia, and actually I first joined the organization in 93, so it's been about 22 years. In 94, I was a scholarship recipient. And so worked my way through the ranks of being a student member, then on to board service, serving on the NABJ board for 6 years, as a regional director, as the secretary for 4 years, and concurrently served on my local chapter board in Philadelphia, and ended up with 4 years of service as chapter president. Hosted the 2011 convention in Philadelphia, which at that time was a record fundraising for NABJ, and I was not just proud of my home chapter, but proud of our members that we were able to contribute to that record success in fundraising. So as I sit here today, I would love to be your next NABJ president. I'm asking for your vote of confidence. I come to this post with a breadth of experience, not only in the organization, in leadership roles on the local and chapter level, but in the industry as a leader in digital and social and mobile. And I'll bring that experience and expertise to the organization. 3 areas that I'd like to focus my efforts if elected president: finance is number 1, Media Institute number 2, and advocacy. I look forward to your questions, and remember to vote Sarah.
Well, let's begin with questions about finance. As you both know, the industry is facing some serious challenges. NABJ is not immune. And I would like to know, the membership would like to know, what are your specific proposals to find alternate revenue streams, and how will you make that happen for the organization?
Shall I?
All right, you can begin.
Okay. One of the areas that I think that I'm excited about bringing to NABJ is a mobile strategy. And I think that this won't just position us as a leading journalism organization, but be a great opportunity to expand revenue stream opportunity. Something as simple as a push notification that's sponsored to content that is continuous on a mobile app throughout the year. There's a whole lot of possibilities, and that revenue can be articulated into a specific category or a specific push or sponsorship, or it can be an add-on to an existing sponsor of a corporate level or a larger sponsor. And I think that now more than ever, sponsors, benefactors are really looking for innovation, and I think that's the one thing that I'll be able to bring, and I have unique experience on mobile. In terms of really dealing with the revenue issue, in addition to looking at new revenue streams, it's really also about limiting spending and taking a very good look at where we're spending now. So, day one is my experience of organizational leadership, going in and really doing a clear audit of our expenses. There are, in fact, places that we can cut, and we should be cutting. We need to be responsible about the members' dollars, and as well, our sponsors and benefactors, those that we've been able to bring back this year and some that we've lost. We want to see that we're taking good steps to be good stewards of our money. So that new mobile strategy, an audit, and then lastly, a strategic plan. That's a very key, pivotal thing that I'm uniquely positioned to be able to bring back to the organization. I oversaw the strategic planning process from 2007 to 2012. I was the chairwoman of that committee. And so we've been operating the past 3 years without a strategic plan, and it's really time that we take a good, hard look at our organization, how we're functioning, and make some clear adaptations so that we can put ourselves in line with the funding climate that's out there today.
Ms. Lowe?
So there are three things that funders really care about when it comes to fundraising and raising revenue. That's stewardship, that's sustainability, and that's impact. And so when we're talking about raising money for the organization, those are the three things as part of a revenue strategy that I would like us to focus on. We have to get better at building relationships with new funders. Rather than just ask them for money, we need to be able to have those conversations to build trust and to build relationship. NABJ, as a member told me, is known for two things: slapping people in the face or sticking them up for money. And so we have to get better at not just sticking people up for money, but really kind of understanding what are the needs of the sponsor and advertiser, and see how those needs can align with the needs of NABJ. Fundraising is a two-way street, as we know, and we have to get better at identifying the needs for both parties. Earlier this year, I was able to get my certification in nonprofit management with a focus on development, and really trying to get a handle on the newer tactics for raising money and not relying on the old ways of doing so.
Thank you.
Did you want to rebut?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Mrs. Lowe, you spoke earlier in your opening statement about elevation, education, and engaging. I want to specifically talk about the education part. One thing that many members are concerned about is that they spend so much money to attend the convention every year, but what is the cost effectiveness of the convention when it comes to professional development? You can go to any other convention and come away with things that you can use in the newsroom right away. But many times when we come to NABJ, there are not always a lot of personal development classes and training that is geared to helping us get to where we need. What are you saying specifically in your education platform that would make it profitable and also encourage other members to join and to continue to come to the convention?
Well, thank you for that question. I've heard that concern a lot from members as I've been talking to them on the campaign trail. I would like, as NABJ, to create an online training curriculum that would be year-long, but would really kind of focus on training that takes us away from the convention. My plan would be what I call the 1-4-12 plan. So that would be one convention, 4 regional boot camps, and then monthly seminars or training. I think what we have to get better is providing a resource for our members to be able to get the training that they need when they want to get it. Not everybody can get to a convention, not everyone can get to a regional conference, but if we provide the training online, they can tap into it whenever they need to. So that's one specific example that I would like to implement as your next president. And obviously, training is also sponsorable, and that's where the revenue part comes in.
Rebut.
Ms. Levy?
Well, Media Institute, it's a crown jewel of the organization, underused, and really it's time to maximize its potential. It's an area where, quite frankly, it's so needed. Journalism training and just media training and new media training is just so utterly needed. Many journalists that I've spoken to on the campaign trail and even in the newsrooms that I work, they didn't sign up for all this mobile, digital, social, Yahoo stuff. They signed up to be an on-air reporter like yourself. But it's time to make sure that our members are well equipped with the new technology and understand the new processes. Myself, I do a lot of training at work. It's a big part of my job. I work with the 11 owned stations at NBC, and I'm right at the forefront of what's going on in our industry in tech, mobile, and social. I'd like to bring that experience and expertise. One thing that I've done on the side to really demonstrate that I'm equipped and, more than just talking about, can actually execute, is I started a Facebook group called Diverse Social Media Editors and Digital Journalists, and anyone who's listening is welcome to join. If you type it in on Facebook, you can't miss it because there's no group like it. We have about 1,000 members, and it's really a portal where folks and journalists of color can come together to learn more.
Thank you. Again, we're enforcing the time.
Thank you.
Do you believe, either of you, that an increase in membership dues and registration fees is necessary at this time in NABJ's history to balance the budget? If so, by how much?
Before we start increasing fees and dues, I would like us to increase membership. And I think that is a way for us to bring in more dollars that we're seeking. The way to do that is back to what I call elevating the association by making people aware of the work that we do, by the brand that we've created. NABJ is an incredible brand that not everybody knows about, and so we have to be proactive about promoting that brand, building brand awareness, and highlighting and shining a light on the journalists that are part of our association and the work that they do. I think once we start elevating and shining a light on those members, it will create an energy and excitement about the association that will bring more people to it. And so I would like to focus first on growing the membership, creating some membership campaign initiatives. I think the 40th anniversary, quite frankly, was a missed opportunity for growing our membership. We could have done that very easily, celebrating our 40th year, and using that opportunity to get more people engaged, involved with the association.
Yeah, interestingly, membership is one of those things that it's actually one of the most important aspects of our organization outside of the convention, because it's a huge revenue generator, and quite frankly, we're mighty by our numbers, so we definitely want to increase our numbers. I'm not for raising dues. I know it's a proposal the candidate for treasurer has discussed in the campaign. I think that, quite frankly, through a strategic planning process, which is vital, that we go through that process and really identify. We talk to members. Have we surveyed members lately? We talk to members and find out what it is they want to see in their association and really address the needs of the current members we have and seek to identify and engage back with those members that have dropped off. And quite frankly, there's so many opportunities within our ranks across the country. Small to medium markets is a prime area where there's growth opportunity, and I think we really need to reach out to that segment of our membership. And a Journalist of the Year award, I'd love to see that for a small to medium market.
Thank you.
All right. We also want to remind our viewers that you can send us questions at the hashtag of NABJ debate. We will be looking at a lot of those questions in our second half of this debate. But I also want to bring up a question that some of our students brought up earlier. They believe that there's a missed opportunity between the professional chapters and the student chapters. As president, would you mandate that chapters have some type of relationship in order to help bring up the future journalist in those cities?
I think it's a great, I don't know if I would use the word mandate, but I think there's a great opportunity to build connections and stronger partnerships between the local chapters, professionals, and collectively, and also with the student chapters. I think the student chapters can learn a lot from our local professional chapters, and so I would support an initiative that would kind of bring us all together in that realm. There's a way to do that that wouldn't cost us a whole lot. Social media, for obviously, Facebook or chats or Google Hangouts or something that will allow the members to talk to each other. I think that could be a great opportunity there. I would love to see more student chapters grow along our campuses. I think that's a great way to get NABJ into the classrooms and onto the campuses by creating these student chapters. So I support the locals mentoring the student chapters in that way.
Yes, absolutely. It's so very needed. Chapter Day is actually tomorrow, Wednesday, the first formal day of the convention. I founded Chapter Day in 2004, so this is our 11th year, and we actually do seek to connect student and professional chapters together. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we had a formal sister project where we connected a student chapter with a professional chapter. So I would definitely like to bring that initiative back, and quite frankly, that's like just exchanging telephone numbers. Sometimes it's like the low tech is the most powerful thing that we can do, is just talk to each other and help each other, quite frankly. And then in terms of chapter relations in general, when I served as secretary, I oversaw chapter relations, and that's when I started the Chapter Day and Chapter Grants Project. One of the other things that I did was suggest to our executive board and president that we host like quarterly meetings with the chapter presidents, and I'd like to bring that back and certainly invite student chapters into the fold, because it's really important that they recognize how important they are, and we appreciate the work that they're doing.
How much time can you devote to the presidency, considering your present job responsibilities?
That's a great question. I am fortunate to have a job now that will allow me to be able to step back and to be able to lead. One of the reasons I get the question a lot about why now, am I deciding to run for NABJ president? And I think from a career perspective, I've been very, very busy getting the management and leadership experience that I need to be able to lead now. I have a team now that's top-notch, self-sufficient to some degree. I have the full support of my companies, CNN, my Uber boss, Meredith Artley, who's also president of ONA, and my executive director, and they're all behind my candidacy, and so they're allowing me for the time and effort to do what I need to do to lead the association.
I have the full support of my employer at NBC, and I'm in the own television stations division, and NBC Universal and Comcast, in addition, are supportive of my run. And not only are they supportive of me, they're supportive of NABJ. You know, they've been, they're a supporter at this conference as a sponsor, and bringing new innovative programming. I'm proud to be a part of NBC University, which will take place Thursday all day. There's close to 75 professionals that will be getting hands-on training, social tech, digital, producing, in front of the camera, behind the camera training, and that's the kind of commitment that I'm very proud of. And that commitment, carries over into my own personal, professional life, and they fully support my participation and back me 100%.
Thank you. That's the perfect time to mention another sort of support that we need to acknowledge. This is brought to you, we have mentioned already, by the Student Project here at NABJ. It's also supported by the Knight Foundation and MGM Resorts International. And we have people throughout this organization this evening and elsewhere who have come through the ranks as Student Project participants. And we want to show you one particular member who started off, just like some of the students here, who is now a professional in this market in Minneapolis. Let's hear from her.
By the time the early and late newscasts hit your TV screen, most multimedia journalists like myself have published a web story, shot video for a 60-second package, and managed to tweet information about the story.
So you have to learn how to do all this stuff. You don't just get to report. God. I would not be able to do this job.
And spent another 30 seconds explaining to the mayor you're just that talented. Oh, and don't forget, we often edit everything on a laptop, cramped in a news car. But when you see us. And the MLB All-Star Game is taking over the Minneapolis Convention Center. And today we look cool, calm, and collected. Well, that's sometimes. At least that's often the case for me. Hey there, I'm NABJ baby, Adrienne Broadus, and I once sat where you all are sitting right now. In 2005, I reported for the NABJ Monitor. The year after that, the TV Project in Indianapolis. But now I'm a storyteller here at KARE 11 News in Minneapolis. And yes, in a top 15 market, I'm on my own. That's me, trying to shoot a 2-part stand-up. I encourage you to learn all the skills you can for multiple platforms. It will make you marketable. And when the Student Project wraps up at the end of this week, keep in touch with the volunteers you meet. I have wonderful relationships with my mentors, all whom I met through NABJ. It's nice to be able to reach out to folks who look like you for advice. Yes, it's going to be hard, but don't give up. Take a deep breath, learn all you can, And remember to keep the material you produce this week. You never know. It could be just what you need to land that first job. That was the case for me 8 years ago. And here we are now at KARE 11 News. I'll see you later.
All right, we are back now live with the continuation of our debate between the presidential candidates for National Association of Black Journalists.
Yes, and again, we want to remind you, please hashtag NABJ debate to send in your questions. We're getting questions from students who are here in the room with us, but we also want to hear from members who may not be able to actually be physically in the room with us, but definitely have questions for our candidates. And as we wait for some of these questions to come into us.
No need to wait.
Okay, there it is.
The modern era. Social media. This question: how will you elevate students to be active and join NABJ? Who wants to take that first?
I'm glad, since you used the word elevate, right? That's my platform. I would like NABJ to get into what I call the classrooms and to get onto the campuses. I think there's a huge opportunity for our association to talk up our profession. We read or hear stories about, is journalism dead? Should young people get into the profession? And I think there's a way for us to encourage the next generation of journalists by going into the classrooms and talking about a profession and talking about all the different roles that can be played in a profession. It's no longer just a reporter or a writer or an editor. There's so many other titles and roles that can be done in our business right now. So I'd love for NABJ to get more into the classrooms, to talk about the profession, and to get onto the campuses and become mentors in that way.
Yeah, I'm excited about students and student relations. And, quite frankly, we've had formal mentorship programs in the past, but I would really like to bring that back in a formal way. And yes, absolutely, the focus could and should be on students in development because, quite frankly, we get them in, they take journalism as a major, they're interested, they get their internships, and that first 5 years, that critical time to ensure that we can keep them on a path to success. But in addition to student and mentorship that focuses on students, I think it's equally as important that we put efforts toward the mid-career and veteran journalists. There are so many folks that are not just unemployed, but underemployed, and if not underemployed, have dealt with a layoff situation, myself having firsthand experience with that, and really, finding my way to come back after a layoff. And there's life after a layoff, and I'd like to be able to inspire our mid-career and veteran journalists to make their way through and bring up our student journalists as well.
All right, well, I know this is a debate, but this is also a learning experience for many of the students who are in this room. So this question comes from one of our students who simply asks, what is the biggest professional mistake you have made and how did you overcome it? And again, they just want to know that both of you as candidates are also real people dealing with real issues. And as they get ready to step forward into their careers, what wisdom can you give them?
I would say, there isn't one thing specific, like in producing along my day, whether writing or shooting an assignment or putting out a tweet. But I think generally speaking, looking back in my career of 18 years working in newsrooms, is that I maybe didn't speak up in those early years, whatever the situation might be. And I used to be shy. And so, being a journalist, you can't be a shy person. And so you've got to learn to come out of your skin and really, not just have confidence in your ability as a journalist, but be a good communicator and be able to ask the right questions and the tough questions and not let people off the hook. And so I would say that, that was a skill I developed, and I think I'm very good at that now, but I wished maybe when I was younger that I just felt a little bit more confident in myself to push harder at a younger age.
I would say, you can't be in this business for this long and not have experienced some bumps and hurdles across the way. And so the idea of being able to, I would use the word being resilient, is something that I would encourage young aspiring journalists and emerging journalists to kind of stick with it and stick through the hard and tough times and the challenges. For me, I think the mistake or things that I wish I had done early on in my career was find mentors. We hear the only syndrome, where you feel like you're the only one in the newsroom, and then you don't have anybody to talk to. So being active and finding mentors early on in my career that would set me on a path. I think I've done okay so far, and that's why I'm passionate about mentorship now, because I didn't feel like I got it early on in my career. And so being able to find mentors and be able to be mentored to mentor others is important.
Thank you. Another question that's come in from the audience. I'm quoting here, for the first time in 4 years, NABJ will have a female leader. Does this hold any significance for you?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I don't know that it holds significance for me personally, but I will say that I have experience in the newsroom over the years, and even within NABJ, that gender does play a factor and a role. Clearly, you know, NABJ is the National Association of Black Journalists, and our mission is around, you know, the advancement of black journalists in the minority community, particularly the black community. But, you know, quite frankly, there are gender barriers that exist, and I think that a woman president, the significance of a woman president is, you know, a new energy to the organization. And I think, you know, President Bob Butler has done a great job, and prior to him, President Greg Lee. But you know what? It's a woman's turn. And so we're at the table, and we're ready to take it on, and I'd like to suggest and submit, I'm your next NABJ president. Vote Sarah.
You know, women in leadership is a huge topic and something that I care a lot about. So is it significant? Yes. Having a woman at the helm of a national association as ours is a big deal. But I would say as your president, I would like to groom the next generation of leaders. And part of that would be creating some type of leadership academy that will allow young women and young journalists to grow and lead our association to become leaders in our industry.
All right. This question is coming from Michael Finney, who is tweeting us. He'd like to know, are there many local chapter members who are not NABJ national members, and how do you solve that problem?
It is a huge problem. Myself having been a chapter president and really just rallying the troops, literally the streets of Philadelphia, South Jersey, Delaware, you know, just getting that community excited about PABJ and getting them to join our organization and getting them to support NABJ when our convention came to Philadelphia, and then stay with NABJ and come back the next year to New Orleans. It is a big task. But quite frankly, I think what we have to do on the national level is really clearly give that value proposition as to why you should be a member of your local chapter and the national chapter. And it's been proposed before by other persons in leadership and other administrations that possibly it's time to look at a one membership that would encompass both local and national, and I'd certainly be interested in exploring that through the strategic planning process. You know, it would be a little bit of a give and a take because some chapters have higher due structures than others, but if you were as a chapter able to get, you know, fivefold the number of members, even if it was at a $10 or $20 less rate, you would have more income. So we'd have to look at the specifics, the finances, and the bottom line, but I think that there's clear potential there to really explore that. But more importantly, again, the value proposition. Why is it important to be a member of NABJ? Why is it important to be a member of your local chapter? And I think that the majority of our chapters are in small to medium markets, and we need to do a better job at really servicing that segment of our membership. And if we do that, they will, in fact, see the reason to join NABJ, renew your dues. I look at it like paying my taxes. I pay it every year, and I'm going to continue to pay it every year. And that's the type of commitment that I'd like to be able to just lead by example and encourage others to follow.
I think there's great opportunity and a benefit to being a member of both a local chapter and the national. And we have to just stress the importance of what do you get by being a local member and what extra do you get by being a national member. I think there's an opportunity, whether it's depending on the structure. If you're a local member and you come to the convention and you become a national member, is there a break that you can get by doing, by being part of the local? And we kind of do a little bit of that, but I think there needs to be more structure about if you're going to be a member of both the local and the national, what added benefit is that to you as opposed to one or the other?
We are getting a lot of questions about finances, which is not a surprise. Someone wants to know, travel expenses have had an impact on the organization's financial health. What are the benefits or drawbacks to cutting the travel budget?
Well, I think when it comes to travel, we have to be smarter and more strategic about where we go and why we need to travel. Obviously, when we talked a little bit earlier about fundraising and building relationships, you have to not only try to build relationships over the phone, sometimes it requires face-to-face interaction. But I think there are ways to cut expenses when it comes to travel. We do not have to travel around the country to have board meetings. Technology allows us to, teleconference. We can Skype each other, and so this idea of having boards travel 4 or 5 times a year, whatever the number is, I think we can reduce that and save some costs. I think travel is important when it comes to big events, but not necessarily small trips. I think we can get better at figuring out where we need to be and why we need to be there, and to be able to make sure the membership is clear and knows why we're doing what we're doing. I think that's part of the reason why we're getting a lot of questions about the finances, because our members do not feel like we've always been transparent about our expenses. So if we explain and tell the members why we're going, what we're doing while we're there, and be able to justify that expense, I think we'll be in better stead.
The members have spoken on this issue actually just at a membership meeting. I believe it was even last year's convention, and they voted that the board meetings would now be limited to 2 in person per year. So we're already within that framework. The organization is already moving in that direction. It was the members who said, this isn't what we want to see, and this isn't how we want to see our monies to be used. And so, I say that, I'll be that president that can listen and not just tell you or find out things and ways to cut, but listen to your perspective and how you'd like to see your monies used. So technology, we must use technology, Skyping, phone calls, webinars, social media. There's lots of ways to engage with each other offline and not in person. So, that to me is a no-brainer that we want to uphold the membership wishes. And clearly, this past spring, the meeting in Detroit, there was, sorry.
All right. Being respectful of the time. We do appreciate that. I again want to go back to Twitter, where Twitter handler Shay Torrey writes, with so many offices going unopposed, how do you see us being able to encourage members to step up and educate, elevate, engage, and even what you were also saying, Ms. Glover, with getting back to financial solvency? How do we get our members to step up to the positions that you two are vying for?
I think, quite frankly, you do dynamic things. I mean, if the organization is going in an innovative way and the organization is doing groundbreaking things, beyond, the focus of my administration, of course, finances has to be number one, because you can have all the great ideas in the world, but if you don't have the resources to ensure that you're not in the red, and you don't have the resources to pay for educational opportunities, they're just ideas. So we want to be able to put ideas into play. And so when people see that level of, commitment and responsibility and seriousness, that does, change the game in terms of who might step up. And finally, to have so many positions run unopposed, it is disheartening, but I think we can have a conversation about that. And, clearly it's not the board's duty to, identify who's going to run for the next office, but we can certainly have, ways throughout the year that we're engaging with members so that they understand not just when the deadline is to apply to be a board member, but what that entails and what are the benefits, because it should be an opportunity for you to learn and grow. I know my 6 years of service on the NABJ board, I have really grown. It's one thing to balance a budget or be a manager and know, how to add math, arithmetic, but to go up to someone and ask them for money. Fundraising, it's an actual skill. So there's things that you can learn by being on the board, and that I'm, quite frankly, battle tested and board certified. I've done these things for years, and I'd like to get to work for you all as NABJ members and really restore our organization to being in the black.
No pun intended. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I think to encourage more people to run for the national board, it goes back to what I said earlier about building leaders within the organization. I think, quite frankly, as I've been talking to members and trying to encourage them at the early part of this campaign to think about serving on the board, a lot of members were hesitant because of what I would say past dramatics. And so it's hard to get people excited if they think that it's going to be theatrics, should I say. But I think if we can grow our own through a leadership academy, and also there may be an opportunity, other organizations have what we call nominating committees. That could be a possibility in helping to fill that void with nominating people who can step into leadership roles. But I think building those leaders within is the way that we can prevent these uncontested races.
All right, thank you. The time has now come, and it seems like our period is really flown through here
Really?
for
Got some good responses.
closing statements. We're getting a lot of action on social media, and we apologize to those folks whose questions were not answered, but we can certainly encourage you to contact both candidates on social media and try to get those questions answered directly. So, closing statements.
Yes, and through the coin toss, Sarah will be doing, you will do the final closing statement, correct? And so Myra, you can begin.
Thank you, student projects and mentors and moderators, for the opportunity to share my vision to elevate, educate, and engage NABJ. As your next president, I'd be honored to lead this association into what I say is the future. I know it's important to get back to basics, but I am the candidate that would like to take us looking forward. I would like to leverage my reputation, my relationships, and my reach based on my career in this business. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of management and leadership experience that I think is imperative to taking our organization higher. I would be honored to have your vote. Please visit my website, MyraLowe.com. Visit my Facebook page, Myra Lowe for NABJ President, and check me out on Twitter at Myra Lowe or Myra Lowe for NABJ. Please vote. It's very important that you do you participate in this process. This is what democracy looks like. And so thank you for the opportunity to talk with you this evening.
Thank you.
Hi, NABJ and NABJ student projects. That, quite frankly, excites me the most, that the NABJ student projects came forward to put on this debate. Myself, being an NABJ baby, I quite frankly have a soft spot for the folks in the room that have put this debate on and are working tirelessly throughout the convention. And so many people have invested in me over the last 22 years. And I feel, as I sit here today before you, I'm your return on your investment. And I'm ready for this task of NABJ president. Having served in the organization for 6 years on the NABJ board, having served at the local chapter level for 8 years, 4 years as president, having managed $100,000 in income, going out and knocking on doors, almost nearly to a bake sale, to passing the hat, to securing $10,000 in more sponsorship. I'm ready for the task. I've done the work, and I'm here to lead. I think, quite frankly, you have to make a choice. At the end of the day, you go in the booth and you decide who's the best person for this job, and I would submit to you that I am. And there are some key differences. The leadership experience within NABJ and the chapter level is a huge difference. And secondarily, the support of your employer. I think that that is a challenge for someone to possibly lead the organization and their employer is not supportive of the organization. It's a value statement. I can go into that room and ask for dollars and resources, and it is a different conversation. I am an NABJ baby, and I'm here today to ask for your vote. If you'd like to engage with me on social media, I'm at Sarah for NABJ on Twitter and Sarah Glover for NABJ President on Facebook. And I look forward to speaking with you all at the convention. And make sure you vote Sarah.
All right, well, this has been a very informative debate, and as you heard from both candidates, they want to continue this conversation. Before you cast that ballot, you can continue to cast ballots until August 7th, but you've heard both women give their platform on how they plan to take NABJ to the next level, so we thank you for listening, for watching.
And an important programming note, if you're just joining us online and you felt that you missed part of the debate, it will be available online again. It's also, if you're in town, going to be shown on the Convention Hotel at the Hilton. And those of you who are following on Periscope, it'll be there for the next 24 hours if you want to check it out that way. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Anthony Wilson.
And I'm Shannon Sims. Good night.
Good luck to you.
Hold it. Do that again.
Do it again.
All right. So make sure I have you both in the frame. Thank you.